Welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish, the podcast where we sit down with neighbors, experts, and friends to explore the stories, the questions, and the big little issues that shape life in our town, one conversation at a time. This week, we're talking student mental health with two returning guests to the podcast, Mack and Haley. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish. It is me, Justin.
And this is Anuj.
And we are joined with returning guests, our first ever returning guests.
Drum rolls.
They are VIPs of the podcast. Mack Murphy, VP of Campus Affairs at StFX. Hello again.
Hi.
And Haley Qualizza, VP of External Affairs at StFX.
Hello. Thanks for having us back.
Yeah. So you listeners probably remember the last conversation we had with you two. What was it about? Who can recap it?
Students.
Students in general.
Yeah.
Like
But
all
also-
things students.
Yeah, but the fact that students are as much Antigonish as that anybody else.
Exactly. And
That's what we wanted to find out. So how does that play out?
Exactly. So we talked for a long time, and then at the very end, I was like, oh, there's so many things we could have been talking about. Like, we had talked a bit about drinking culture, but I'm like, oh, mental health, we missed that. And then Mac, you're like, oh my, like that's my whole thing. Like, I could do a whole podcast on that. You said,
No, as far as the harm reduction and mental health aspects go into community building, that's a lot of what I do for school and stuff.
So we're taking you on your word, and we have decided we're just going to do a whole podcast on your pet area, your area of expertise.
Expertise is a stretch.
Sure. An area that you are passionate about.
That's good. Yeah.
You can't say lived experience. No.
Potentially, we'll find out.
Okay.
So we are going to, in a sense, let you two steer the conversation. So why was, when I said like mental health and wellness, you were like, oh, that's so important. I need to talk to you about that. If you can, the both of you, explain why. Why was that something that you felt was so important? It definitely required another episode.
I can go kind of first. I think an important thing, like Antigonish, we said this a lot in the last episode, is like a very unique place for students to live and engage in the community. And it's very unique to go to school in Antigonish and struggle with mental health because obviously you're interacting with unique challenges that other schools simply don't face.
Okay, what is that?
Well,
What
yeah,
is the
such as-
uniqueness? Yeah.
We have the Tramble Centre at university where you can get support writing exams and everything, but you need to have a firm diagnosis to be able to use a Tramble Centre. You can't get diagnosed for anything in Antigonish. You have to drive to Halifax or Cape Breton, and all of that money's coming out of your pocket. So if you're a student who's facing financial burden, you simply don't have the resources to get diagnosed, which means you can't get the support that you need to go
Okay.
to school here.
I want to unpack that for a second because I do know about this because I do StFX things. And the Tramble Rooms it's if you're a student that needs extra time or help dealing with an exam or something, you can become part of the Tramble Rooms. You're given a few allowances to just have extra time to write your exam in a specific location or with some extra tools that could help. And a lot of students require that. But what you're saying is you're not going to get into the Tramble Rooms unless you have a clinical diagnosis, and this town doesn't have a human being who can give you a diagnosis for, say, maybe ADHD.
In my personal experience, so in my first year, so I went through all this in my first year, like down. So in my first year, I had undiagnosed learning disabilities. I couldn't write my exams. It was really hard. I did not like school. I needed to use the Tramble Centre. I needed something, so I started with them. They were really helpful in getting me to where I need referral-wise, but in order for me to go get my diagnostics done, I have ADHD, but I have dysgraphia as well, so it inhibits my ability to write. So it's really hard, which makes public policy, as you can imagine, it was hard, right? Because I was doing all this work, but I had nothing to show for it. So I drove myself to Cape Breton. And it was like a 4-hour assessment. I think it was around $1,700 out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
Yeah, and then that's not
$1,700.
I mean, yeah, and that's not without the processing.
Yeah, and I know for autism diagnosis, for example, you can get it for free if you're under 18 as a kid in here in Nova Scotia. This is, to correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're 18 or over, you have to pay for it yourself and deal with it yourself. So that pretty much means every StFX student, if you suspect you might have autism. I don't know if that would be a Tramble's room situation or not, maybe, but you're going to have to out of pocket that and deal with that all yourself. There are no supports,
But
and
let
there
me-
aren't a lot of people in this town who can diagnose.
But connect this conversation with the mental health. How does that connect with the mental health aspect of it?
It's like a very large burden if you're already struggling with a mental disability that's inhibiting your ability to do
Right.
school like a neurotypical student. The isolation you already feel not being able to do assignments quote unquote normally the way that the school is telling you is normal, and then not being able to be helped in your time of need is incredibly difficult for mental health because you're very isolated. And we talked about this last episode as well. Being in this town, coming from away, is already isolating, and not having the resources you need to help yourself and do well in school.
And the
is
lack of third places that you talked about.
It's very hard on students, and like the cost alone of getting a diagnosis, but also if you don't have a car, getting the bus ticket, potentially even getting a hotel if you have to do multiple days of testing alone
All
as a
adds
student,
up.
especially like in your first year when you're first finding this out, doing all of this alone. I know from my personal experience, I hadn't been to the doctor without my mom before coming to university. I can't imagine what it would be like to spend 3 days in Halifax in a hotel off of your own money to get a diagnosis.
So-
Like that would be
So
terrifying.
Haley, you used the word unique when you were first describing this problem, and I think we've settled on the uniqueness, which is this place, Antigonish, StFX, is unique in that we don't have a lot of the medical or clinical resources to help students who have a mental health issue related to a potential disability of some kind. So you're saying it's unique in that you have to go to Halifax.
Yeah.
If you're in Halifax, you don't have the problem. There's many more
Or
places.
Sydney.
Or
So-
Sydney.
So, would you have an insight of how large or small is this challenge? Among 5,000 students, do you know what?
Like numbers? Like how many
Not
are...
just numbers, but how prevalent? How does it show up in the classroom or on the campus?
I don't have numbers, but so on campus, I'm a little bit more visible, so I have more people come to me on certain things like the Tramble Centre, especially when like I've been on the board for the National Education Association for Disabled Students. So I was on a panel, sorry, not board. And so they know of me because of that. It's like it's hard. Well, because I have people come to me and they're like sobbing, and it's like they were 2 days off to meet their exam schedule, so now they can't use their accommodations, and they're disabled, and they can't. There is no amount of good luck that can fix your disability. So a lot of the time when we're talking about disability, especially in the classroom or with an educational setting, it's like all very positive. That's not saying that it's not positive, because I'll tell you right now, like I find there's a lot of ways in which I find myself to have experiences that help me, but there's negatives and they suck. And just because we talk about it in the classroom or people teach intersectionality, they teach not to be ableist, it is still so prevalent in which how they communicate, in which they run their practices, in the procedures, in the policies. And I think that's just kind of is constant. I think the university doesn't always see that just because you can put up a poster or put a ramp in or put an elevator in doesn't necessarily mean that the
Problem
framework
solved.
itself is made for disabled people.
I do have some numbers. I did a bit of research before we started, and there's a Healthy Minds study in 2024-25 that said that 36% of college students are thriving. So a third are thriving, reporting high
where I
levels of
expected that to
success
go.
in relationships, self-esteem, purpose, and optimism. That means that the other, 64% are not thriving. So can you explain? We'll do two things. One, tell me what it means to not be thriving for a student. And then two, what do you think the solutions are? And what have you two personally been working on to help the non-thriving students? So first, paint us a picture of those vast majority of students who do not have success in relationships, self-esteem, purpose, or optimism. What does that mean?
That's a really good question. It means obviously that these students are struggling, and a large majority of students are struggling. The transition from being typically in the home with your parents to university, sometimes very, very far away, from your family can be isolating and challenging, and a lot of students do struggle. I know I struggled a lot my first year adjusting to university, and I would say I was part of the 64% that was not thriving.
So what is
For
that like in your
me,
daily life?
That looked a lot like spending a lot of time alone and really overthinking all of my decisions. I was very, very self-conscious of myself and my body image and public image to the town and other people. And I felt that it was hard to make deep and meaningful connections and focus on my schoolwork when I was just really, really nervous and scared to be here. So I would say that was my experience, and I can't speak for all students, but, you know, the feeling of being alone and being like an adult now and being like completely alone is kind of really scary.
So as a when somebody walks into the campus or in the corridors, you see students rushing, talking to each other, just having conversation or not in the coffee shop. It's not easy to realize,
For sure.
right? And so how does that show up on the campus? How do you kind of really respond to that challenge?
I find one place that we see students struggle is like you are talking with the people in your class when you are required to be out in public spaces. And those are the times that I found that it was the easiest to be quote unquote thriving. But it's when you're alone at the end of the day and going out is like optional and you have to choose if you're going to go out into another space, if you even know about the events that are going on, or if you're going to stay alone in your room, which is a choice that you have to make. So I find supporting students in that is like making engaging events for students where they want to go out and socialize with other people and making it a better place to be than at home alone and sad.
I have an important information
Justin.
on
Yeah.
loneliness, because there was also research I had done that 52% of students are reporting loneliness. That's half.
Yeah.
Half of the students at university. And I know, because this is a subject I talk about, strangely enough, that 1 in 6 people on the planet experience loneliness of this level. So that means students have it much higher than the average population. Also, loneliness, reporting that level of loneliness, is increased your risk of early premature death by 25%, which is higher than smoking cigarettes. So being lonely, like you're describing, is more likely to lead to premature death than if you had like a cigarette habit. That's how dire the
Agreed. What I'm kind of just wanting to insert in that, very compelling narrative is that I can remember myself at your age, going to a university 500 kilometers away for the first time and feeling extremely isolated. So what I'm asking is that, this is not a unique experience. When a young person steps out of the home environment and finds himself or herself in a new environment, it is but natural to feel isolated initially. So just have that.
It is true, but I also know from the statistics that when we were going to college, people were not reporting loneliness at these rates. We talk of a loneliness epidemic globally, and so these rates are increasing in the past decade rather significantly. And so then the question
very
is,
good to ask.
why? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm no scientist, but I would say from living through a pandemic that shaped my formative years, I think being forced to stay at home alone, relying solely on social media to be social with other people, kind of, in my opinion, ruined everything for socialization. We have never gotten back to where we were pre-pandemic. And I think now that all of these students were forced to stay at home when they were 14, 15 years old, at least I was, really shaped the way that I socialize with other people.
Very
and it
good point.
becomes an easy, and almost you become dependent on I'm going to go and be alone, but I'll be social with other people online. So I'm still socializing with people. But at the end of the day, you are still physically alone.
yourself,
And that kind of still makes you feel lonely.
So what because I know this is an area that you're invested in fixing, Mack. So what have you been up to these past few years to address the loneliness issue, but also this not thriving issue in general, or mental health in general and wellness?
Well, I got involved in the union because I was lonely.
Interesting.
Like to be
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So did I.
Full circle, really?
To be-
Oh yeah, it's an easy way to
I had a
engage with
really
other
hard
people.
first year. It was really hard to be 18 and dealing with my health and trying to find a place on campus, and it was really hard. And throughout my work at the union, I started doing active events coordination because, I mean, I tried to not work, but I couldn't because it made my depression so much worse. And number two, it's like, as much as this sounds dramatic, but I need to feel valued. I need to be somewhere where I know that I'm needed. Not in a way where it's like I need people to need me, or it's like I need to be validated as a human being. Because I think I know now that even when I'm doing absolutely nothing, I am value and I am worthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just always been the kind of person where I want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
It gives me meaning.
Yeah, part of the definition of thriving was
Yeah,
purpose.
It gives
you
me
have a
purpose.
Yeah.
But I find like but the loneliness that I feel in general, like I don't know. As a person, I'm pretty independent. It's kind of just my nature, like it's just kind of who I am. So it's been, sometimes it's so, even now it gets hard, because even when I run events and stuff, sometimes it's like it's still hard, and my family's awesome and I have amazing friends. But that's the thing, is when we talk about loneliness, it's not always necessarily from lack of friends or lack of support system. Because a lot of the time people will invalidate themselves. Like students will be like, but I have friends and they love me, or I have my parents, but like, why do I still feel lonely? Because it is something that, it's so complex.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when we see now social media, we set the standard of what it looks like to thrive. So no one actually knows what it's like to thrive anymore. They just know what it's supposed to look like to thrive.
Yeah, sure. So what would you find has been the most effective things that you've been involved with, or maybe started as initiatives for combating loneliness and wellness that you've done in the past? And what do you think needs to be done in the future?
I think service learning is a really important one.
Okay, what's that?
That one I think, it's just like when you do stuff outside of your classes for your classes, because it still forces you to get out and around,
Okay.
but just not in your classroom. Like societies, yes. I think it's important I find for loneliness to take risks.
Mm-hmm. How do you encourage
We have
people
to start, not by risks, I mean, we have to start being comfortable asking people to hang out and not have it be an embarrassing public humiliation ritual.
Sure.
But it's true, because people act like they're like, I don't want to be cringy. Like, I don't want to ask this person to hang out. Like, are you? Because I
This
get
is
it.
actually a really fair thing.
No,
Yeah.
because I get it. I don't want to put myself on the spot. I don't want to go up to someone because I don't want to be like, because what if they don't respond properly? But then you kind of realize like, okay.
Yeah. Do you think that's exacerbated by social media? Because
Yes.
I mean, we would have had this all the time as kids. This
Yes,
is a
because
normal young
social
person
media
thing.
teaches everyone that everything is embarrassing. Everything is humiliating. You need to feel embarrassed. You're on a microscope.
Yeah, because you could be literally being photographed and recorded.
Well, not even. I mean, like, because we're taught like that everything is like so humiliating. It's embarrassing.
Interesting.
Whereas we used to have this kind of sense of like, it doesn't go well, okay. Now it's like, you go on social media and you're seeing all these people who are like, oh my God, I asked someone to hang out and blah, 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 and this is so cringe. And oh my God, they did this and this is so cringe. And
so fear of cringe is something that is in the culture
that's
more.
like the best way of kind of putting it, I guess. Like I kind of sound like I'm 16, but like people really do. They fear embarrassment, and they fear rejection and humiliation by their peers.
How do we kind of respond to that? And if you can also connect with, around alcoholism or drug use or substance use, how does that really play out on the campus
I
or outside?
would say, like, as we've said before, like, there's so few places for students to interact, and there has been a big shift in like actual curriculum where profs aren't like assigning big group projects where it's written response because of AI. Like, I know a lot of my classes have just gotten rid of all writing components. It's only midterm and final. And I found that, like, in my first year, when it wasn't like that. It's like, oh, I'd meet so many different people because I'd be in a bunch of different group projects with them, and it just forces you to be into different groups with different people.
Right.
Fascinating.
But now there's not so much of that, and the
So
places
even further isolating.
even further isolated. I've had like my first group project of second year happened in my second semester.
Well, I'm designing a course that I'm teaching next fall, and so this is my question is, what do I do with AI and writing a blah,
Seminar
blah, blah?
style is best.
Well, okay. Now, tell me directly as students, I'm going to be running a fourth year seminar. What would be the best that I could do to help students in terms of wellness and mental health?
So we do, honestly, mental health and wellness as far as like you go with teaching. Like I'm doing my strategic governance seminar right now. There's like 11 of us in the class because it's honors PGov, so it's all the nerds all in one place. Sorry, I'm sorry, PGov program. You know it's
Hey,
true.
hey.
But it's super basic. Like we do the readings, and then but each week someone presents on the topic. So a classmate goes up, presents. We talk about it. Like genuinely talk about it.
And that helps them get over fear of...
Like get over fear, but it's like you don't feel alone because everyone has to present each week. It's once a week. But then everyone talks about it together. So then it's a together conversation. And then you go over a case study together where you actually just get into two groups, and you just talk about it. And you try to solve a hypothetical problem.
So it's like what you're saying. You wanted to be together.
To really generalize it is like force students to participate, and there will be the like initial embarrassment cringe of like, oh, like I have to speak in front of everyone in my class. But after you get over the embarrassment, you can all kind of just have a laugh together, and that brings you closer as peers.
So you're advising that something that professors can actually do to help with this problem is to encourage that kind of interaction in the classroom because students are struggling.
Students will no longer will very rarely take it upon themselves to interact with other people outside of their direct friend group in the classroom unless a professor is taking direct intervention with assigned groups.
And they learn so much better.
Yeah.
And if you were to kind of continue in the same vein, what can community, town, and county do in that respect? You're talking to the decision makers of the town.
The town is listening. The mayor is listening right now. What are
Sean Cameron, please.
and Nicholas McInnes of Arden.
Yeah, so I can't forget county. Again, I've done it again.
I know, and you are the county person. I'm the town person.
Nick,
what's happening?
So you're talking to Sean and Nick. Go ahead.
I would say, like, when it comes to loneliness, I love meeting people who aren't like students or staff at the university. Like having events that are very clearly advertised, like anyone come, like the Highland Games, so much fun. I met so many people who just live in town, don't have anything to do with the university, and going to events like that where I feel like I'm a part of the community and that my presence is like valued makes me feel a lot less lonely. And going to events, and all the time when I'm at events that like the town or county is hosting, or at least there's a presence there, I have a million people come up to me and be like, oh, are you a student? What do you study? Literally, we were waiting outside to get into the library, huge line to get in.
Yep.
And at least 3 people were like, are you guys students? What do you study? That's so lovely. Talking to us about X-ring. Like,
that's fascinating.
It's really
So much fun.
If you get out there and there's events to go to, and again, like that choice of like, do I stay at home alone, or do I go out to something that would be more fun? Forcing yourself to go out and do the thing that is more fun than
Very
being
interesting.
at home.
Yeah. Let me just point out something. So in library, we are suddenly seeing escalation or number of events that are being organized for especially for people who are elders and aging, because but we have not seen specific events
targeted at students
or inclusive of, I wouldn't say target, it's inclusive of. And why do we have to create, age specific grouping? Why can't we have multi-age groupings? I'm just thinking aloud. But
I think part of it is that I feel like the town, we operate a little bit in a bubble.
Right.
You actually have to go to StFX to advertise to the students. Like, but this is a question for people who are doing communications.
Absolutely.
So say Anuj and I have an event that we were hosting at the library. We want students to show up. How do you find that information? How do we best get in touch with
not just the
students?
information, real invite that people feel coming.
You feel like, yes. Is a Facebook post? Do we
Not a
put
Facebook post. Don't put it on Facebook.
Okay, so how do
no
we find
students
you?
will see it. I would say social media is
Instagram.
a good way.
Instagram.
Like, and you can also reach out to like student groups on campus that do have like large following Instagrams. Like if you reach out to the union, if you reach out to like societies that have large scale followings, if your event has something to do with a society and just ask, hey, do you mind resharing our event to try and get students to go? That's a really easy way to engage students if you're looking more like paper invite. There's like whiteboards and like push pin
What
poster
about email?
things.
Like, do you
People
check
can-
your email?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are
I'm-
D1 email
I'm
checkers
an
here.
Outlook warrior.
Oh, yeah.
But in all seriousness, I have people emailing me all the time and being like, "Can you forward this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." It's super straightforward.
Forward it to like the whole student body?
Not okay. I can't. I only do that if it's like something like really. But like, say I'll be like my society coordinator to get it out to students. I'll be like, "Hey, could you forward the society presidents?" And she can do that.
Okay, so this is an important, I just want to
And it takes 2
reiterate.
seconds.
If you are in the community and you want students to come be part of your thing, which you should want because you need more people and because you're helping fight the loneliness epidemic with
And
students.
also because we're all really fun and,
And
cool
because
people.
they're most of them are fun. Use Instagram and email.
And can I just quickly add to that?
Yes.
I think this is a social science, topic.
Okay.
When you invite somebody in your event, the dynamic is very different than when you create the event, which is inclusive of everybody.
I see what you're saying.
So it's a very how do we design and create spaces that feel like I have co-created as opposed to I'm participating in somebody else's
That's
event.
true, because you're concerned about getting over that hump to get out the door and do a thing. Because because you're worried about cringe, but B, because it just seems like maybe you're not wanted there. How do you design something that feels like we wanted students there all along, and the student is like, yeah, I totally have to do this?
Or you are part of the design.
I would say like language is a really easy way to do that. Like if you are emailing students, be like, we want you to come. Just the simple language of we want you to be there that really lacks in a lot of invitations. It's like all inclusive is there rather than we want you to show up. Show up. And then if you are organizing an event, talking to the students that do show up rather than talking to your close circle of cool adult people is also important.
Yeah, because we feel awkward. Because I get it. Because
Justin, are you
it's like
listening?
I
Take
hope I'm in the
notes.
school category. is all
I call it the teenager at the mall effect.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, even though I'm 21 and like a group of 16-year-olds still scares me.
They still scare me.
They
I
still
feel judged.
So I get it when it's like you're at an event and a bunch of students show up and they're all like in their little circle and you're like, oh my God.
What do I do
Here
now?
they are. But like the thing is, you have to remember, like, they want to be there. They want to talk to you. They're probably just feeling uncomfortable, so they all clump together in a cellular formation to try and make each other feel more comfortable. Because they want to go talk and they want to do stuff.
And also, a lot of the time, the students who are in a group that sometimes like adults and organizers fear a little bit, we, the students, feel the same way about the adults standing in a circle. We don't know how to approach you either. So, like, just coming up and talking to us
And
helps.
I think it's in that scenario, it's good for us to remember that 1 in 2 students are experiencing terrible chronic loneliness. So that student who you think might be unapproachable, or maybe they're too cool, or you don't understand them, they are in that moment suffering and need you to go up and talk to them and say, hey, awesome that you're here. What are you studying?
Yeah.
So isolation, in some ways, I think is a something that you experience. How do you address that? And if a word that continues to re-emerge in almost every episode is belonging. How do you help people feel that they belong?
The thing with belonging, it's finding a purpose. You don't even always have to find where you fit. It's like you have to like make your spot. Personally, I prefer to make my spots. In a good way, I make my bed and I lie in it.
And so how does this get easier as you progress through the 4 years here?
You care less, but you also become more comfortable with the feeling of loneliness, and you learn the skills that help you combat that versus the like blanket statement of go build a community, take time for yourself. You learn what works for you better as you over 4 years begin to learn yourself and who you truly are independently. And I think it becomes easier when you can recognize the patterns that make you feel lonely and what you can do to help that. And that just comes with getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
Anything to say about different people of different cultures and
I would say belonging is harder when you are a minority in any space. It's finding community with people who've gone through similar things as you is inherently harder when there's less people who've gone through the same things as
primarily
you.
white institution.
Yeah. So it's harder for sure, but when you do find your spaces, like I would say this is the same with any student, like finding the space that you belong in and finding people who've gone through similar things as you helps you combat that loneliness. And, you know, broadening your horizon and entering groups that you might not be a part of. I hang out with a lot of really random different groups on campus that I don't necessarily have on paper a lot in common with these people. But when you get to know a person, you can find the most random things that you have in common. Like we both play Dungeons and Dragons.
For example, yeah.
Will it be fair to say that if we can tackle this idea, this loneliness, a lot of mental health issues will be addressed?
I think it starts. I think of my grade 10 business class in high school when it was like the hierarchy of needs. So when people they start to feel more included, or they start to feel a more sense of belonging, they're able to kind of work their way up and deal with those more complex issues.
Well said.
That's kind of how I see it, because it's not like, if you have friends, it'll fix everything all at once. No, because I have great people around me. I still have days where I want to curl up into a ball and and just roll around. But but it is about kind of finding that baseline of being comfortable and being comfortable with yourself.
And talking about it, the more that students talk about feeling these things, the more students will realize that they're not completely alone in feeling this, and that kind of combats loneliness altogether, knowing that your loneliness is felt by the person you're sitting next to in class that you don't know. It helps you feel less lonely when you know that 64% of everyone on this campus is feeling the same way.
So first of all, I think this is interesting because we've come across a lot of issues I didn't think we were going to talk about. I didn't realize how prominent loneliness was going to be. Yeah. And you've both hit on some interesting practical solutions for professors and people in the community. That's fantastic. So we can wrap it up, but I want to give you the final word. Is there anything we haven't talked about, or a message you want to share? Something we just didn't have time to cover? Proposing another episode, it sounds like, potentially. Anything, any final words?
And you're talking to Antigonish.
Yeah.
Talk to the students that come to events in town. Like, even if you're not the one running it, talk to students, because we want to talk to you, or at least I do. If you see me at an event, come talk to me, because I want to talk to you.
That's a good one. It's something literally everyone can do. Say hello to a student.
Yeah.
Trying to think. For main things, as long as you kind of keep standing up for what you believe in, you can find the people that you need to be around.
All right. Yeah. Finding your people.
That was so much more powerful than mine was.
Yours was
it makes
nice.
it
Yeah, it was better than that one. Well, again, thank you both for coming in. I find this very enlightening. I love the honesty
and the energy.
And I know I feel youthful again, Anuj.
Yeah, I know. You are youthful already.
Neither of us are youthful. We can complain about our lower back pain after the episode. But yes, thank you for coming, and we'll probably have you back. It seems like you are speaking for all the students.
I want to come back, and I'm here for 2 more years, so just standing episode.
Yeah, Mack, you're out of here soon enough.
Call me in.
We'll zoom you in.
We'll zoom you in from Ottawa.
Thank you.
That would be so fun.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Antigonish. If you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe. Just go to letstalkantigonish.ca and click. Voila! You'll receive new episodes right in your email inbox.
This podcast is a labor of love. Please consider making a contribution, small or large, maybe a monthly subscription.
A thank you to all of our supporters and subscribers, especially our paid subscribers through the Substack. You are really helping us to keep this podcast going, and we look forward to expanding it in the future. Let's talk, Antigonish.